Okay, welcome back, guys. Welcome to the Farm School. Today, we are going to explore a very special kind of story. Stories that don't just entertain us, but also teach us important lessons. These stories are called fables and tales. As we go through this lesson, think about the stories you've heard before. Many of them probably had a message hidden inside, something meant to help you learn, grow, and make good choices. Let's begin our journey into stories that teach us. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Miss Bree, and I am an educator, a farmer, an illustrator, a singer, and of course a proud grammar nerd. So welcome to the Farm School. So what is a fable? A fable is a short story that you can read quickly. But even though it's short, it has a powerful message. Fables often use animals as characters. These animals talk, think, and behave like people. Why animals? Well, because they make it easier for us to see different behaviors, like being clever, or patient, or even selfish. At the end of every fable, there is a moral. A moral is the lesson the story teaches us, something we can use in our own lives. What is a tale? A tale is a story that takes us on a journey. Tales can be realistic or completely imaginative. Anything is possible. Some tales include magic, adventure, or faraway lands, while others are about everyday life. Even though tales may be longer and more detailed than fables, they often still teach us important lessons about courage, kindness, honesty, and perseverance. So let's compare the two. Well, fables are usually short and simple. They often use animal characters and focus on one clear lesson. Tales, on the other hand, are usually longer and include more events, characters, and adventures. However, even though they're different, they share something important. Both help us learn how to be thoughtful, kind, and wise. So, characters in fables, right? The animals usually act like people. They walk, talk, and have feelings just like us. They even talk and think and make choices. Animals in fables generally decide what to do, and each has a special trait. So, like clever foxes, or proud crows, or patient turtles. The list goes on. The setting, however, is where a story takes place, right? So it could be on a farm, in a forest, or even in a castle. The setting helps us imagine the story and understand what is happening. It also helps us shape the story because different places create different challenges and adventures. Every story has a plot, which is what happens in the story. The plot has several important parts. First, you have the beginning, where we meet the characters and the setting. Then, a problem appears. Something goes wrong or needs to be solved. Next, the characters try to fix the problem or find a solution. And finally, the story ends and we learn the lesson. All of these parts work together like pieces of a puzzle. The moral is the heart of a fable. It is the lesson the story is trying to teach us. Sometimes the moral is clearly stated at the end. Other times, we have to think carefully about what happened in the story to understand it correctly. For example, slow and steady win the race. Honesty is the best policy. And kindness is always rewarded. These are lessons that help us guide our choices in real life. So, if you hear your favorite story, what lesson do you learn? So let's look at a famous example, right? Everybody's heard of the tortoise and the hare. The hare is very fast, but he becomes overconfident. He thinks there's no way he can lose, so he stops and takes a nap. The tortoise, however, is slow, but he keeps going step by step without giving up. And in the end, the tortoise wins the race. This story teaches us that being consistent and not giving up is more important than being the fastest. So, characters have different traits that describe who they are. Some characters are kind and help others. Some might be clever and solve problems. Some of them may be greedy or selfish, wanting way too much. Others are even brave and face their fears. These traits help us understand why characters make certain choices in the story and how those choices affect the story. In every story, actions lead to results. This is called cause and effect. If a character makes a poor choice, something negative might happen. If a character makes a wise or a kind choice, something positive may happen. This helps us understand consequences. It also helps us learn how our own choices can affect what happens in our own lives. Stories aren't the only place we learn lessons. Life teaches us too. On a farm, for example, you learn responsibility by caring for animals and plants. You learn patience by waiting for crops to grow. You learn teamwork by working together. Just like Fables, real life helps us grow and learn. Stories aren't the only place that we learn lessons, right? Another thing you can do is retell a story. So if you hear a story and you think, oh my gosh, this is the coolest story ever, I'm going to tell it to a friend or my teacher or my parent or my guardian or whoever, right? This is how you do it. You start with the beginning. Start with who, where, and when. Set the scene, right? Describe it. Next, you do the middle, right? You tell them what happens. What's the problem or the adventure? What's happening? Why is the story even happening? And then finally, you end it. So how does it finish? What is the lesson that you learned? These are things you need to remember when you're telling a story again. So, after reading a story, it's really important to think about what that story teaches you. Ask yourself, what did I learn? Sometimes the lesson is really easy to see. Other times, you might have to think about what the characters did and what happened because of their choices. The more you practice, the better you will get at understanding stories. Now it's your turn to become a storyteller. You can create your own fable. So you're going to start with characters, maybe animals, give them personalities and traits, create a problem and a solution. Then you're going to decide what lesson your story will teach. Stories are powerful tools for learning. They help us understand the world, learn from others, and think about our own choices. For many years, people have shared stories to pass down knowledge and lessons. Stories connect us to the past and help us grow in the present. So, every story teaches us something, right? What will your story teach? So remember, when you're creating your own fable and you are writing it out and you're thinking about all these lessons that you've learned, you can create your own stories then to share with friends and family. Each story has the power to teach and inspire and bring people together. So, as we finish, remember that stories are more than just entertainment. They are tools for learning and growing, right? Every story has a lesson, and now you have the skills to understand those lessons and even create your own. So keep reading, keep thinking, and keep telling stories. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.